more likely, perfect, thank you. More likely you have colleagues who couldn't make it today. So we will post this today and email it out today so you can share with colleagues and other folks who couldn't make it. So welcome. Thanks again for joining. Just to make sure everyone's in the right place, we're going to be talking about the 2024 renewal evaluation process today. It's 2024 because it goes into 2024. We'll talk a little bit about dates and what we're looking at, but this is known as the 2024 renewal evaluation. Housing Innovations is here today. So I'm Liz Isaacs. I am with Shannon Quinn-Sheeran, Miles Wensek, and Lauren Peretti. And we are going to have our friend Adam Yarnott from Nutmeg joining us. And he is working on the second half, all the fun technical stuff, the second half of our webinar. So what are we going to talk about today? We've done a little welcome again. We did some introductions. We are going to tell you a little bit about why renewal evaluation happens, what we're looking at, a little bit about the history. We're going to go quickly through the 2024 criteria. We'll talk about the timeline and the process schedule, what things are going to look like. The next bullet is what Adam's going to do from Nutmeg. He's going to take a look at RED or RED. You're going to hear us call it both, the Renewal Evaluation Data System. We're going to answer questions. We're going to provide some resources, and I want to stop quick because questions we'll certainly ask at the end, but we will also answer questions as we go along. Please stop us. We will try to make this
on a call.
usable for everyone who's on, but we're going to have some new people. We're going to have folks who've been here a long time, so we're going to do some basic things. But if I start, or any of my colleagues start talking in alphabet soup, and we're talking too fast or we've moved too quickly, please slow us down because we really want this to be useful for you. So we're going to talk about the background. So every year we evaluate projects, and BOSS currently has, I know Miles probably has it memorized, but I like to say just over 100 projects that are funded by BOSS. We use data when we look at the renewal evaluation that already lives in the system. So it already lives in HMIS. You use it for your APRs, and we use it for system performance measures for the entire system. We call them SPMs. And we are required to give those data to HUD every year. And every year, renewal evaluation has changed. It looked very different. A few years ago, we have a new system. We have RED or RED to just, our goal is always to make this as seamless a system and process as possible for all of you. We want this to work for you. And so each year, we really do try to tweak the system, make it easier for you. And then in terms of what we ask for, we always want to ask for the most relevant data to see what HUD is prioritizing, what the COC is prioritizing, and capture all of that in the renewal evaluation process and criteria. So why do we do this every year? Because it is a lot of work. It's a lot of work for you. We're not complaining. It's a lot of work for us. So why does this matter? Why are we doing this every year? So again, the data that you put into the system is used by HUD to evaluate the COC as a whole. So as you may know, each year we submit an application to HUD, and part of the criteria that we're scored on are the SPMs, or the system performance measures. And those are created, as I mentioned, by all the data that you put into HMIS. So it's very important. It's not just your data, it's everyone else's that is being looked at. You may also know that every year we rank projects as required by HUD, and we do that using your renewal evaluation scores. We also look at the scores to figure out what should be funded. Really, what's very, very important is that we use this to always be improving the projects and to always be providing the highest quality housing and services to the folks that you are serving. And so the hope is that the feedback that you get back from this evaluation will help you improve your programs and understand what people's needs are, what's happening, and just create projects that each year get better and better. The steering committee every year and the BOSS community each year really wants to know about what are the system-wide needs, where are there gaps, what's working really well, what's not working really well, and this also helps to inform that. Also, as I talked about, we submit an application every year to HUD. The better that the COC performs, the higher score that BOSS receives from HUD. The score directly correlates to how much funding we can get for new projects. And we always, as we know, we are under-resourced. Folks always need new housing, new services. And so part of performance feeds into that. So we're going to be talking about, as I said, I'm going to keep saying it in case folks are new, Renewal Evaluation Database, and you can call it RED, and you can call it RED. So what is RED? It's the tool that lets you see all your results in one magical place. And it pulls the data from a bunch of different places, pulls it from HMIS, from SurveyMonkey, from ZenGen, and if you're a DV provider, from your comparable database. And you are able to have access to the data in real time. So there's going to be a magic button that you can push, and you can see your data as it gets updated. As you update in HMIS, it updates in RED. And you can check regularly. This is something you can do often. And you can see how the score changes. So you're going to make a change in HMIS. You look in RED, you push the magic button, and it updates the data. We have the link to RED here. We're also going to put it in the chat box, and we're going to make it always handy for you so that you're able to get in. Adam will talk about how to problem solve if you can't get in, but we want to start with the basics and make sure that everyone can access the system. So we're going to talk about HMIS and the comparable data, database. So as I said, most of the data come from either HMIS or what we say CDB, the comparable database for DV programs. The period we're looking at is from October 1st, 2022 to September 30th, 2023 for almost all the measures. We'll talk a little bit about spending later, but that's what we're going to look at. And as I've mentioned several times, this about system performance measure, this time period is the same time period we look at for all system performance measures. So we look at everyone's data all at once for this particular time period. And I hope you can join us at the semi-annual meeting on November 17th, because we will be talking more about system performance measures, and you can take a look at the system as a whole, and CCH will provide information on that. So I hope you can join us and see what these SPMs are. As I mentioned, so RED is going to pull magically data from HMIS, and you get your magic report that you can update. You can take a look at this. And what's really important here is, so you might look at your report in RED and say, oh my goodness, that's not right at all. Just remember that your data source is from HMIS probably. We have some other data sources, but probably you need to make a change in HMIS, or again, if you're a DV project, in the comparable database. Okay, before I start talking about criteria and instructions, is there anything in the chat I should know about, or does anyone have a question? I'll pause for a sec.
Nothing in the chat, Liz.
Nothing in the chat. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. So we're going to talk about the evaluation criteria and instructions very quickly. We're not going line by line through the 2024 evaluation criteria. It's just important that we use this as a starting place, because we probably talked about it a couple months ago. So every year, the BOSS evaluation criteria are approved by the steering committee. And these are the 2024. They have changed just slightly, and I'll show you how they've changed in the next couple slides. This year, we thought it might be helpful, instead of inundating you with long emails, though I know we also did that a little bit too. We have the instructions in one location. And so that there is a link to those there. All the documents, I'm saying it because I want to make sure I'm telling the truth, all the documents that we're going to talk about today are on the BOSS website under Renewal Evaluation. So you should be able to click on those. We have links here. As always, if you can't find something, you're going to let us know. So very quickly, we thought it would be helpful for this to be in one place. Again, you have the link to a document that may be easier to read, but these are the 2024 Renewal Evaluation criteria. And I just want to orient you to make sure you know how to read the document, and you can find what you need. The criteria are on the left, the standard. So the standard or benchmark, what the hope is that folks are meeting, is on the far right. In the middle, it's going to tell you if this is applicable to your project. So we're just going to do the next one. More criteria, again, criteria on your left, standard, benchmark on your right. Let me go back for a second. So anything that is has yellow in the background is brand new. Anything that is in blue has been tweaked. And I'll give you a second to look at that. And as you can see, it's very little that has changed from 23 to 24. We'll go back here. Same here, just a few changes, criteria on your left, benchmark on your far right. Okay, if there aren't questions, I'm going to keep moving. This is a reminder.
There was a mention of the link's not working. We'll fix the link after the webinar. So
okay, yeah, any links
bringing
that
it
may not work, we will fix. And also, if they tell you what link it is, I am happy, or maybe one of you can put it in the chat for folks.
And the other thing is the criteria is also in RED. So when you're in your reporting mechanism, there is a criteria link right in the RED system.
Oh, that's really helpful, Miles. Thank you. Yes, we try to put it in lots of places so that you have access to it. So this is not new, but we just want to remind folks, because it seems like it comes up each year if folks have concerns about this particular topic. So remaining or exiting to permanent housing, we just wanted to make sure that you were clear on what the exclusions are. So excluded are people who have passed away. So they are not part of the set. If you have one bad exit with a, one exit with a bad outcome, that also is pulled from the set. Exits from people who are leaving housing to seek safety. So for example, if you have a domestic violence survivor who has left permanent housing and the best place for that person was in shelter, a domestic violence shelter or other shelter to stay safe, that also would be pulled from the set. And then we've talked for years and really tweaked this and listened to your feedback on exits to foster care, nursing homes, substance abuse treatment, because often these are exits that are needed and the best situation for the particular tenant or client. So those have also been pulled from the set.
Just one note, the person that's leaving for seeking safety is not something that the HMIS/APR handles. So you'll have to put a support ticket stating that you have a person, and then we'll have to adjust the information in the report.
Thanks, Miles. That's important. Anything else? All right. So what's new? We do have a few new things this year. So our Youth Navigator projects, this is the first year we're going to be evaluating them. They will not be scored. So we collect data, baseline data, because we still want to see what's going on. And we want to be able to provide that feedback to those projects. And they're going to be evaluated on spending, occupancy, and they are going to submit consumer surveys. YHDP surveys changed a little bit this year, and we have sent this out in the email, but just to remind folks that YHDP projects are going to use the same survey, same process as BOSS, paper or electronic. The SurveyMonkey links have been sent out. They also are going to live in red, and we just don't put those on the websites. They're not publicly available. We just want to make sure they're really targeted to providers accessing those links. If you can't find it or there's any problem, you'll reach out to us and let us know. And just as of June, YHDP providers were supposed to stop using their surveys and use the BOSS surveys. This year, this is really exciting.
There's a question in the chat from Amanda, Liz.
Sure.
Miles, can you address that on the fly, or do we need to get back to Amanda on that?
Yeah, I have to check. Let me check the APR and I'll get back to you in a minute. I think it's only one. Yeah,
perfect.
Can't confirm
Thanks,
that.
Miles. Okay. So back to our exciting news that DEMIS this year is going to give us surveys directly. So if your agency participates in the DEMIS consumer survey process, you can do, as always, you can do DEMIS surveys, but this year they're going to send us the survey data directly. So you do not need to submit the DEMIS surveys to us. But if you are a DEMIS provider and you want us to use the CT BOSS surveys, please give us a heads up, because our default will be to use the data that Demas sends to us. So again, if you don't want us to use the Demas surveys, you've done the BOSS surveys and you want us to use those, that is fine. Just let us know. This is also new, any cash income. So for all non-Youth Navigator projects, any cash income is going to be looked at, but not scored. So again, when we tell you we're looking at it, not scoring it, it's for us to get a baseline and to still be able to share those data with providers and provide that feedback.
There's another question from Amanda in the chat, Liz. So the question is the Demas survey data that they are giving you only through 6/30/23? Shannon, jump in if I'm wrong about this, but I believe that the submission, they're going to give us data through the submission deadline, which is 12/6. So we'll get the data from them after the 12/6 deadline, and it'll include anything that was submitted by that deadline of 12/6.
That's my understanding also.
Anything else? All right, also exciting with the help of our great technology is that you can look at your previous year scores. So you want to peruse and see how things have changed through the last couple of years. You can do that, and you are going to look at my projects page in RED to be able to do that. Also new this year, you can submit corrective action plans directly into RED, which is great. I'll tell you, our goal is always to limit you submitting things through email and did we receive the email and where things are going. And this is another great tool so that it will be directly in RED. You guys can see it, we can see it. I think it's a great new addition. And then you will be able to see the results as well. So we kept these slides in, we pondered, should we give you too many screenshots? And we decided, sure, let's give them too many screenshots. But this is just because I'm not the expert in the grant assessment review, Adam is, and he's going to go through this. But we just wanted you to take a look at, we're throwing a lot of terms around, we're asking you to do a lot, and we wanted to let you know what this looked like. So I'm not going to go through each one, just wanted to let you know what this will look like when you do your grant assessment review, which Shannon's going to talk a little bit about, and deadlines and all that good stuff. But this is what it looks like in RED.
Also, if you're walking through and not having the video side by side, these slides are here for you if you want to have them alongside while you're doing this yourself.
Yes, that was part of the decision to make sure we gave you lots of slides. Yes, thank you. I do think it's helpful. A lot of people like to have two screens up and kind of walk through and have these as helpful instructions. And Miles always puts good big green arrows in so that you know what you're looking at, which is excellent. So yes, that button's going to become important when you, as you work on this and submit your grant assessment review. Again, I'm not going to go through each of these, but Miles put in great arrows for you, so you know what you're going to do here if you're using these as instructions. Also, there's a note which is important, and it happens to our team all the time. You're going to see different dates sometimes, because sometimes we're using dates for when the grant was submitted. Sometimes we use dates for our evaluation year. Sometimes we use dates for the data we're looking at in a different year. So anyway, this is just to say you're going to see 2021 sometimes. That is because that's when the grant was applied for. So I think that is it on that. And same thing here, just more visuals on the grant assessment review, what you're going to see, and more. You're going to see, again, criteria on your left. You're going to see in this screen, you're going to start seeing points available, points awarded, and get a sense for what your evaluation score looks like. A little summary here. It's going to let you know your number of participants and all that good stuff. I'll pause for a second before we talk about our pitfalls, which is good because we're going to let Adam answer all the RED questions. So every year we sit down as a team and say, hey, what went really well during renewal evaluation and what could go better? Maybe we didn't communicate things clear enough. Maybe providers had certain questions. So then we collect our common pitfalls And Miles always gives us a great list of, hey, where are people maybe struggling? What do we hear a lot each year? So some of the pitfalls may apply to you, may not, but you may just want to have it in the back of your head as you're working. Sometimes there's incomplete data in HMIS. So the big one is missing annual assessments. Another one I feel like Miles says comes up a lot is the incorrect number of program participants. And I think the reason we highlight that is because then that messes everything up, right? Because some calculus is based on how many people are in your program. And if that's wrong, then like it's going to mess up what's happening. So you always want to make sure that's correct. You want to make sure that people are entered and exited properly. And this one,
I just want to say one thing real
Yeah,
quick.
please.
So when you don't complete an annual assessment that is due for someone, that's going to have a huge negative impact on your score, particularly if you're a small program. So because if you just didn't provide the data, you're basically going to get scored as if none of those people met the criteria.
Yep.
Right. So that is a big place where you want to make sure, and I'm sure Adam will show you this later in RED, you can see right in RED whether or not you've got missing annual assessments. And if you do, you want to make sure you address that before the deadline in December, because again, that's going to have a big negative impact on your score.
Lauren, that's great.
To go back to the question you had before about the designations, it's hospital or other residential non-psychiatric medical facility. It is not the other one, which the psychiatric hospital or other psychiatric facility. So it has to be a non-psychiatric hospital.
And Miles is answering the question from the
Thanks,
AP,
Miles.
right?
For the destinations, which one is not included in the calculation?
Got it.
So the first one that you said is the excluded one, Miles. So not the psychiatric one, that is not excluded, but the medical one is excluded. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. And then our last bullet, which we always put on with all of our processes, is to start as soon as you can. And we are mindful that this is a job on top of your many, many jobs. But we have noticed through the years that folks who are able to engage in this process earlier on, ask questions earlier on, identify issues as early as possible, have better results, and also sort of feel better about the process and are happier. So this is all about your happiness. It's partially about your happiness and our happiness, which is just we want the best results as possible. You guys do amazing work. We want it reflected here. And when we get panicked calls the day before something is due, it just makes it tricky for that always to happen. So again, we know how busy you are, but if you can take a few minutes, or if today you have blocked off 2 full hours, we probably won't use the 2 full hours. If you can stay on, we can start answering questions. You could start making sure, that's why I'm obsessed about you getting into RED. You can get in and we can get things rolling. So we'll thank you in advance for doing that. Oh, and just another common pitfall. So folks will make changes in HMIS and then call us in a panic and say, it's not working. It's not showing up in red. There's a magic button. You push the magic button and that should work. And again, all along the way, if we're telling you something should work and it doesn't, you're going to tell us and we're going to help you with it. But just remember to push the button. I'm going to pass it along to Shannon, and she's going to talk about performance.
Hey, everybody. We're going to dive into some of the individual performance metrics and the evaluation criteria. So next slide. Efficient use of resources. So there are a few project types that are excluded from this: new projects, SRO projects, sub-projects, and transfers are excluded from this metric. And YHDP will use 2-year spending on this metric. So as you can see from this slide, if the project receives over $2 million, the threshold for full points is that they must have less than $75,000 remaining or unspent. The next tier, $250,000 to $2 million, must have less than $50,000 remaining, and projects under $250,000 must have less than 10% of their funds remaining. The source of this data is SAGE from the most recent APR submitted to HUD. And in the next slide, we're going to talk more about that. Go ahead, next slide. So again, spending data is from the most recently completed grant operating year as reflected in SAGE as of January 31st in 2024. So you can see from the examples given, the first project ends on October 31st of this year, yesterday. APRs are due within 90 days of the project end date. In this example, they do submit by January 31st. So we use that spending data for the period ending 10/31 of 2023. In the second example, the project ends on 11/30 of this year. The APR isn't due by January 31st. So the project submits after that. So the spending data for the previously completed operating year, which ended in 2022, is going to be used. Now, it is possible that in that second example, they could have submitted their APR on or before January 31st and of 2024. And if they did that, we would use the most recently completed operating year. But if they didn't, we could use the previous year. So also, as you can see by this schedule, since January 31st didn't happen yet, we don't have all the spending data in red yet. So if you see a 0 for your spending, it's because we haven't yet entered that data, and that is going to be added at a later date.
Yeah.
So just quick, Shannon, I mean, hopefully it's because the data aren't available yet. I guess it is possible that someone actually did not draw down any money in SAGE, in ELOCs, and so spending really is 0 in SAGE. So that hopefully never happens, but it's theoretically possible that it could happen. Yeah. And then you would get a 0, obviously, if you didn't spend any.
Yeah, at this moment, I don't think anyone has $0 for not drawing any money down. But yeah, I still have grants going forward. Anyone that has operating year ending in, I think it was August and back. Yeah, it was August and back. Should all be entered because there was, pretty much everyone from July. Yeah, everyone in July was complete, and then the August one was early submitted, not submitted, but was early completed, drawn down. So then I entered that already. Anyone that's from September and October, it's going to show as a 0.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Miles and Lauren. Yeah. The next metric we're going to talk about is occupancy, and the threshold we use is that 90% of unit beds are occupied based on quarterly utilization. New projects and transfers are excluded from this metric. And then there's a different threshold for YHDP crisis transitional housing and youth permanent supportive housing, and that is the threshold is only up to 1 bed per quarter is unused.
So Shannon mentioned both on this metric and on the last metric that transfers are excluded. I just wanted to explain a little bit more what that means. So basically, if the project moved it moved agencies, right? It didn't used to be your project, it was someone else's project, and the recipient changed, that's what a transfer is. So we treat that like a new project when a new provider is managing the project, and those measures are excluded.
Thanks. Next slide, housing stability. Housing stability is looking at whether participants stay in housing or exit to permanent housing destinations. So for PSH, rapid rehousing and transitional housing, the threshold is that 95% of the participants either remain in the program or exit to permanent housing. For YHDP diversion and reentry program, the threshold is 85% exit to permanent housing. And for these last few, youth YHDP, youth crisis, TH, youth rapid rehousing, it's less than 5% exit to shelter, unsheltered or unknown. I skipped the YHDP crisis. That's 60% exit to PH, permanent housing. Next slide. Non-cash benefits. So the benchmark for this is that 95% of all projects except for DV projects, which is 76% of the participants are receiving non-cash benefits.
Shannon, I'm going to go back here. We have a question from Amanda. For the PSH, how are folks that are enrolled but not yet housed counted?
If they're for housing stability, I would I would say
I can take it if you want.
Go ahead.
So I think the question is for PSH, it's if they're remaining in PSH, is that the question, Liz? Like, so if somebody hasn't exited, they're still in PSH?
Yeah, they're enrolled. They don't have a move-in date.
Correct.
They're enrolled, but they don't have
Like they have a voucher, but they're not haven't found housing yet.
I understand. Okay. Miles or Adam, I think that they're counted as in PSH.
Okay, so there's gonna be two. This one gets quirky. So for the housing stability, it should count because it's part of they're still in the program, although they're not. I don't think the APR handles it, it discounts the people in there as a stayer. But an occupancy, it won't be counted because they are not housed yet. So I just want to mention that because that was a quirk that we learned one year when there were programs that had people enrolled, but they were not housed yet.
That's a good distinction, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Okay, length of stay. So the length of stay applies to some projects, DVT, transitional housing projects. The length of stay metric threshold is 2 years or less. For youth transitional housing, COC non-DV, length of stay is 1 year or less. And YHDP crisis transitional housing, length of stay is 60 days or less. Earned income. So this is one of the metrics or the metric for which the annual assessment is relevant. It's so if you don't, as Lauren pointed out before, if you don't complete your annual assessment, it will look like nobody received earned income, or whoever you didn't complete that annual assessment for, they didn't receive any income. So this is scored for all youth projects except YHDP, diversion, rapid exit. And the threshold is that 25% of the participants increased earned income from entry to exit or follow-up, and follow-up is that annual assessment. Next, we'll talk about consumer surveys. Okay, consumer survey scoring criteria. Surveys are due on the 6th of December. The response rate for surveys equals the number of return surveys divided by the number of funded units. For example, if you had 100 units and you had 40 surveys returned, you will have a 40% response rate. So as you can see, the maximum points are given available at a 35% response rate. If you increase your score from 35%, your points in the renewal evaluation don't go up, just so you all know that. There is, however, scoring implication if you don't submit any consumer surveys. There's a 5-point penalty if surveys are late or not received at all. Surveys received after 12/19 will not be considered at all. There are survey links, as Liz said before, there are survey links in the red emails and on the renewal evaluation date, the RED renewal process page under resources. So just one more note about the scoring and consumer surveys. So if you don't submit any surveys, not only do you lose the points that you would get, the 5 points, but you also get a 5-point penalty. So that's a total of 10 points lost if we receive no consumer surveys at all for you. So that's what I just talked about. So 5 points deducted for late consumer survey submissions. And then another point deduction is if you don't update or confirm your Zengen contacts. And I think there's there's a slide upcoming where we'll talk more about that. Process and schedule. Zengen is our grants management database, which does many things for us, but it helps ensure providers get access to the correct projects in red and inclusion on the email list. So in Zengen, there are fields for 3 contacts: a primary contact, secondary, and third contact. Then there are additional fields. I believe there's 3 for 3 additional red contacts. So your primary, secondary, third are automatically pulled in to give you access to red. If you want additional people in your agency to have access to red, put those people in the RED fields in Zengen, in your Zengen profile. So updating your contact information, reviewing and updating your contact information, or confirming if there's no updates to be made, still click save every quarter. If you don't, this is a scored metric and you will lose points. We have a way to see if you've been in there and click save. So if nobody has updated your contacts in the last quarter, it's a scoring factor. You could lose points for that. I just want to remind people, because I've been in Zengen lately, and there were a few agencies that have 2 and 3 contact profiles. So in general, I believe there's only one agency that has contacted me and explained a rationale for having more than one contact profile. For the vast majority, there's only one contact profile per agency. Otherwise, it gets very confusing about who has access to what and what grants are connected to whom. So please only have one profile, and then the idea is that the primary contact will share their username and their password with anyone in the agency who needs to have access to Zengen. If you need to get in there to update something, if you need to get in there to submit documents, that type of thing, the primary contact just shares that information with anyone else in your agency who needs access to that. So again, you can go in there and update anything you need. The only thing you can't update is the primary contact. You need to contact me for that. So my email is linked here, and there's a link to the Zengen training there as well.
Great. Shannon, we have a chat question. This is about a previous slide. How do we account for clients increasing their income and no longer eligible for non-cash? So this does happen, and we're always excited when clients are doing really well and increase their income. And Lauren, jump in, or Shannon. But my explanation is that, we create a whole slew of criteria, and you may do super well on some, and others may not be relevant for certain tenants or clients because of this. And that really is accounted for in the way we create the criteria, in the way we create the point system to account for this.
So the other thing I would just add is that's part of why the criteria, the benchmark is never set at 100%, right? Like, so there are going to be some people that, are able to earn enough income that they are entirely ineligible for any kind of non-cash benefit. And so that's kind of accounted for in how the benchmark is set.
And then it looks like there's another question in the chat. So if we already hand in the DEMIS surveys, I believe Bonnie is saying we are good. Excuse me. So the answer to that is yes. If I answered the wrong question, just restate it. So, okay. Renewal evaluation schedule. In 2023, the paper consumer surveys were distributed and made available on our website in June 2023. In November, right now, we are launching the RED database and holding the webinar. So December 6th, as I said, consumer surveys are due. December 6th, also the initial RED data submissions are due. So what that entails is completing the grant assessment, reviewing and refreshing your data. On the 8th is the deadline for providers to submit support requests, and there's a link here for support requests. That the support requests are inside of RED, and the data system links to HMIS help desk for technical issues or for housing innovations for non-technical issues. On the 19th is the deadline to make data changes and refresh data in RED. Then to be determined are we have a time frame for them, but they're subject to change. So in approximately February, the 2024 updated reports will be available, and the window to submit change requests opens. And then in the spring will be the additional dates here: change request deadline, change request results, results from grievance committee, and corrective action plan deadline, which will also, as Liz said, be submitted in RED. Next slide. Projects being evaluated in 2024. Only projects listed on the document linked here are to be evaluated this year. Agencies should have already confirmed that the HMIDs are correct for all projects. Please make sure, if you haven't already, if your project has multiple HMIS IDs, that each HID for HMIS is correctly listed. So providers have to submit support requests in RED. Please don't submit them via email. As Liz was talking about, it can be cumbersome to keep an email trail for all of the requests coming in. So this is a process improvement where we can keep track of everything right in Renewal Evaluation database, as opposed to the slew of emails that all of us gets, including yourselves. So please use that support request ticket feature in RED. Support requests will be used to alert, as I just said, either us at Housing Innovations or Nutmegs to issues. And for help with data cleanup, use this link that's included here, the COC Renewal Evaluation Data Cleanup. Support request process. For questions related to DV comparable database, please contact Joanne Vitarelli, and her email is linked here. The change request grievance process. So once the reports are final, providers may submit a change request in RED to contest their score. Change requests are processed. Providers are notified when results are visible in Renewal Evaluation database. So you submit the request in RED. We take some action and put a response in RED, and then providers will receive an email saying, check RED, and you'll see what's happened with your change requests. Change requests that don't result in a score change and are not withdrawn by the provider will go to the grievance committee. The BOSS steering committee voted on the criteria that we're using for renewal evaluation. So basically, the criteria stand as they are, and they may not be grieved. Also, issues that may not be grieved are missed deadlines and circumstances commonly experienced across all projects. So a difficult housing market, staff turnover, housing stability changes that are commonly faced by many of the project participants. Next slide. So now we're going to hand it over to Adam, and he's going to demonstrate the RED database.
All right, thank you for that. I'll apologize in advance. My voice is a little bit scratchy today. Got a little bit of a sore throat going on, but so if anybody has a hard time hearing me or needs any clarification, please just speak up. If I move too fast on something, you can raise a hand, put something in chat, etc. Let me know. I want to make sure that everybody understands everything, and if you don't, then we'll make sure that we get you to that point. So let me show you what the application is going to look like. Many of you have used this before, so there are only a few minor changes which were mostly highlighted already, such as some changes to the change request process and the corrective action plans. For the most part, the process is the same as it had been before. So when you get to the application, you're going to sign in with your account. That is going to be the email address in your contact profile in Zengen. If you have not signed into it before, then there is a link here as well. If you either forgot your password and need it reset, or if you have not logged in before and you need to set an initial password, this link here will let you do that. And if you're having any trouble with logging in, then there is a support link here to request assistance with that. That's not the one that I wanted to use. There we go. So as a provider, which I'm going to log in as a provider here. As a provider, you are going to only see your project list. And you're going to have a banner on the top of the screen letting you know what the deadline is for submission, which was already covered before, and is also available on the process overview. There's the link at the top of the page that has the timeline for everything that is going on for application. As mentioned before, a couple of the dates are still to be determined, but they will be updated on here I don't know exactly when, but they will be updated on here. Also on the support, we've got the user's guide link to help you through using this tool. There is the 2024 adult and youth scoring criteria. And as mentioned earlier, the links to all the consumer survey links. So that is all available right here for you. So I'm going to log in now as somebody who's got access to some programs here to show you what that looks like. So once you log in and you go to your My Projects list, you're going to see basically a list of all the projects you have available to you. We're going to use some of the test projects on here just for demonstration purposes, but you have your key dates, milestones up on the page here, and it'll give you an overview of all your projects. The grant number, name, all these columns are sortable. You can click on them to help you find something more easily. You'll see information for your 2022 score, if there was one, the 2023 score, if there was one, your 2024 score. If it has not been submitted yet, it'll indicate that it's awaiting submission. You'll see the number of change requests or grievances filed once we get to that point in the timeline. And then if there are any points changes made to your programs, you'll be able to see them here as well. And if your project requires a corrective action plan, that will be listed here as well. So when you first go into a project, as mentioned in the slides earlier, you have to do the initial grant assessment review. And the grant assessment review is going to ask you to confirm your project's operating year. It will be shown here. And if it is correct or not correct, select appropriately here. And then if your project has HMIS program IDs associated with it, one or more, they will all be listed here and indicate if that is correct or if it is not accurate, so that we can follow up and find out what's wrong and get that taken care of. And then once you have completed that, you hit the button to submit for review, and your actual HMIS programs will pull all of your information out of HMIS and out of Zengen and out of SurveyMonkey and generate a score for you. I'm going to go to one of the projects here that's got that loaded up already.
Just to mention, there's also for the DV projects, we forgot to mention the import feature right on top. There's a little box that you just import your file for your CSV zip files, and it'll run your report the same way that the HMIS one.
That is a good point. Thank you. That is correct. If it is a non-HMIS, like a DV project, there is the box here for that. I apologize for missing that. And that will be used to help identify what the HMIS project IDs are to populate your data. Let me pull up a project here that was scored this year. So once you hit that button to generate your initial score, you will get a page that looks like this, and it'll indicate that the scoring is completed, how many points were available to your project based on which criteria were applicable to it, how many points you were awarded, any penalties, and then what the final score is. You'll see on here the list of all the criteria that applied to your project. And we show here what the name of the criteria was, what the standard is, the top level tier, what your actual program's performance is, how many points were available, and how many points were awarded to you. You get them all summed up at the bottom, as well as the context penalty if there were any points on there. And you can also see there's a tab here for the HMIS program details that this project doesn't have, but for HMIS projects, you'll see what all of the individual project names and HMIS IDs are. And then you'll see a lot of common information about your project, the federal component type, number of units available for the unit count that's used for determining occupancy. If it's a youth project, if it's a DV project, the operating dates, spending information, and a lot of the other details that go into calculating the individual criteria. So if something doesn't look right, you can look at this page here. You can compare that to an APR, see if there are any discrepancies there, etc. But this should be the information that you would need for that. And then once that has been done, you are essentially all set with that project until such time as you either need to refresh your data. Now, this particular test program is a DV program, so this is the one that would require an APR to be uploaded from the HMIS compatible database. For all other projects, this box won't be here, and the button will be the same button, but it'll update based on current HMIS data, and will pull all of your current APR scoring data directly out of HMIS and rescore your application based on the latest data. So on top here, it'll show you the effective date that this was scored on. So this project was scored yesterday. If you had noticed that some of your assigned points were a lot lower than you had expected them to be, and you correct your data in HMIS, you come back here, you hit the button, it grabs the updated information from HMIS, rescores everything, and hopefully it will look better than the last time. And if there are any issues with that, there is a support page link to ask questions about any discrepancies that you find. Also, the link to the scoring criteria is here above all the individual criteria differences. It's an easy way to get to it if you need to look up any of that information. You can also see up here that there is a button for the previous year's evaluation if you want to look at last year's score to compare it. And then back on the project list here, you'll be able to see the status of your projects. We just looked at CT 9001. That shows right here that it has been scored. Now, once the deadline hits for the final scoring, and you've received your final scores, and you contest some of the points that you had gotten, there is an option here where you can open or view any change requests. So any criteria that you didn't score full points on, you can request a reason for the points change that you think makes sense. For example, submit your change request, and that will change your scoring box to red to indicate that there is a change request pending for Housing Innovations to review. And you will also see that project on your projects list will indicate in the little number bubble here that there is a change request that is pending. Housing Innovations will then review that change request and either approve it or reject it. And that leads into the grievance process. If they reject the change and you don't agree with that, then it goes to the grievance committee, as was mentioned before. And if either of those results in a points change on your project, that number will show up there as well. The other thing that is new this year is that if your project scores 0 points on a scored measure, then you may be put on a corrective action plan. And if I get any of this terminology wrong, please correct me, anybody from Housing Innovations. That will show up as a red number on the side under the corrective action plans column. What that does is, you can click on that, it'll show you any of the criteria that you scored 0 points on, and you'll be required to enter a proposed action to address that, a target date, and who's responsible for it. If there are multiple criteria that you'd scored 0 points on, then each of them will be listed on here. In order to submit the corrective action plan to Housing Innovations for review, you need to have at least one proposed action for each criteria that is applicable to. You can save your changes if you filled out some of them, but not all of them, and come back later. But that will not submit it to Housing Innovations. In order to submit it to them, you have to have every item completed on here. Once that has been done, Housing Innovations will either approve or reject the action that you had proposed. If all your actions are approved, the corrective action plan is locked, no further changes can be made. If one or more of the proposed actions are not approved, you'll get a comment as to why it wasn't. And then you will have the option to revise that proposed action, but any items that were approved will remain locked, and you won't be able to make changes to those. Once the corrective action plan items are approved, the number next to them will change from red to green, indicating that it has been approved. And that completes that aspect of it. Do we have any questions so far?
Adam, you may have said this, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone's clear that it's going to be the same process that we've used in the past, right? Where only the projects that score very low based upon the threshold that's set, right? Like usually we do like the bottom 10% or something like that. Those are the only projects that will have to do a cap, right? So once that threshold is set, we'll go in, we'll say which projects are required to do a cap. So it won't be every single program that has scored 0 on any indicator. It will only be if you scored poorly, really in the bottom cohort of programs across the entire portfolio, will you have to do a cap.
Correct. Yes. Thanks for the clarification there. I was did not recall that it was not everything that scored a 0. So we also have on the I believe we reviewed the process overview page earlier, where we have the timeline, we get some basic information, all of your resource links. And the other important thing to note on here is the support page. So this links to the BOS Renewal Evaluation website. There'll be the recorded webinar. Right now it's the 2023 version because we're not finished recording this year's, but this will get updated at some point, probably today or tomorrow, I'm guessing, with this year's link, as well as the slides, which I now have, and those can get up this afternoon. And there is the how-to guide for providers as well, which steps through a lot of the individual aspects of the application here. There are some common questions and issues that will get addressed as needed. If there's a common issue that comes up, we'll put that here, click and then we'll give you recommended action for that. We have the support contact information here. If you're having trouble cleaning up your HMIS data, there's a link to the HMIS help desk for that. For questions about the DV comparable database, as mentioned in the slides, there's the email link to Joanne, I believe it is, Vitarelli. And for any other issues, we have a little form on here. If you're having multiple different issues, which hopefully is not the case, but if it does, It is recommended to split them up into separate requests because different things are handled by different people. Some of it might be handled by Housing Innovations or Nutmeg, or different people at Nutmeg if it's the HMIS people, or me if it's a technical error. So submitting them will make sure that everything gets to the right person and you'll get a response much faster. There are a list of common topics which route to the correct place automatically. For example, login errors, or you think there was an unwarranted lateness penalty, or any other questions, scoring questions, and of course the something else in case none of those are accurate. And if it is related to a particular grant project specifically, you will see the list of all the projects assigned to you in the system, and you just identify which one you're having an issue with. If you're having an issue with multiple projects, you can just explain in the message that the issue applies to others as well. And if you're logged in, then all your contact information is known from your login. If you're having a login issue, then obviously you won't be logged in, so you would just have to fill in your name and email, submit the support request, and you'll be gotten back to by whoever handles the particular issue that you're having. Any questions yet so far?
Don't see anything in chat. Does anybody? You're welcome to come off mute and ask a question. I know we gave a lot of information. Folks are probably still absorbing, but please feel free to ask any question you can think of. Not seeing. Oh. Somebody have a question? Nope. I'm not hearing anything or seeing anything in the chat, Adam.
Right, well, hopefully that means that everything is self-explanatory enough and everybody's already familiar with the process. And if that is not the case and anybody runs into an issue or a question, then by all means, use this to reach out, and it will be responded to very quickly.
Hey, Adam, this is Lisa Callahan. I just have a quick question.
Sure.
If I'm missing a program, I should just send in a ticket, correct?
If you're
I usually have access
program,
to all of I usually have access to see all the DEMIS programs, and there's one that I don't see in my list. So just send in a ticket to Nutmeg.
I believe there is an item on the support page for that. A project was scored that I don't think should be evaluated, or a project is missing. So that would be the best option to fill out there, and that will go to the right people to look into that.
Great.
And then obviously, if you can let us know in the message which project you are missing, so that we can get that straightened out.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Adam. We have a question. Can more than one person be looking at an agency's RED page at one time?
Yes. So you can have multiple people on the same page at the same time. If multiple people try to update the scoring at the same time, it may slow that down a little bit, because it will be making, multiple requests to HMIS at almost the same time. Somebody's going to hit that button at least a little bit faster or slower than the other person did. So it might take a little bit longer to come back with your score if a whole lot of scoring is going on, but it is not a problem for that to be the case.
Great. Good questions.
Yeah, I have not gotten that one before. That is a good one.
Yeah, it's like Amazon. When I'm on Amazon and all of a sudden I see strange things in my cart, my children are adding to it.
Hoping you don't notice.
Hoping I don't
That's
notice, and somehow I gave the password away. Anything else? Good questions. Keep asking. I'm not going to have Adam stop sharing. Lauren, tell me your thoughts on this. We talked about we may stop recording, and anyone who needs to go can go if we've decided we've wrapped up. But if folks want to stay and ask questions, either of, Adam and you are going to ask him to click a page, or you want to hop into RED, we're scheduled till 12. We are happy to stay, and we would love to use this time again to make this as seamless and pleasurable and wonderful process as possible for all of you. And so if folks want to stay and ask Housing Innovations questions or ask Adam some questions, we are here.
This is Margaret from Hi, Safe Futures. I do have a question for Adam.
Sure.
As a follow-up to the question that was just asked. Having two people in on in red at the same time, but maybe you said this, but I got a little bit confused. So you could have two people on, two different computers, but can only one be entering? Is it only gonna,
Nope, it is fine for two people to be entering. So if you and somebody
Okay.
else are both logged in
Yeah.
and are scoring different projects, that's fine. If you both try to score the same project, it'll,
Oh,
waste a little
okay.
bit of time, but it's not gonna break anything. It'll just, it'll update it and then there'll be another update immediately after it. But every time you
Okay.
update, you only see the latest version of the scores.
Okay, I
So
apologize.
it
I
won't-
think you said that, but I wasn't quite getting it. Okay,
No,
thank
that's
you.
fine.
I get it. Thank you. Yep.
You're very welcome.
I just want to say, if anybody wants to hop off now, hop off. I think we'll stop the recording now. But thank you for everyone for joining us, and for all that you are